So it's that time of the year where the F1 teams and fans awake from their off-season slumber and get themselves ready for the new season, which of course means people like me put together predictions for how they think that season will go, only I'm usually so wrong that it makes the AWS graphics look like a reliable predictor of information. But nevertheless, that is what this video is about, as I'll be going through the Constructors predictions, followed up by my drivers predictions as well, and ultimately who I think will be crowned the F1 champions for 2023. Hey guys, it's Taran and welcome to the On Track channel and to my 2023 F1 predictions. Now, before we get going, just a quick little reminder that if you do end up enjoying the video to give it a thumbs up, and if you really enjoy it to subscribe. That way you'll stay up to date with all of the content coming your way this season. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into my predictions for the 2023 Formula 1 season. Finishing in last place, I have Alfa Romeo in their final season as the title sponsor of Sauber, mainly because, although they started last year well and ended up in 6th, their performance towards the end of the year, well, kinda sucked. In 9th place, I have Williams, as where Alfa got worse as the season went on, Williams, well, probably got a bit better. Not to mention the fact that any driver on the planet would do better in that second seat than Nicholas Latifi. Okay, well, nearly anyone. In 8th place, I have the most overpriced fashion brand on wheels, AlphaTauri. As they are the Red Bull Junior team and we've had a full year of new regulations, their cars should be alright. But the reason for them being down here is I struggle to see the drivers getting the best out of the car. No, not because they both might struggle to see out of the cockpit, but because one is a rookie and the other has just shown themselves to be, well, kinda mediocre. In 7th is Team Anger and Rage, aka Team Suck My Balls Mate, aka MoneyGram Haas. With a decent driver lineup and an okay car, I think they should do just fine, but that's about it. Nothing special, just fine. Next up in 6th place is Team Daddy's Cash, an outfit who towards the end of last year were really making progress, and as their facilities and capabilities continue to grow under the ownership of the world's most depressing Santa lookalike, they should keep making strides. Not enough though to catch up with the top half of last year, and in my opinion this year's grid as well. And in 5th place I have Alpine, a team that I'm pretty sure is only your favourite if you're French. But given that Gasly is a step down from Alonso and the fact that I fully expect and kinda hope to see some fireworks between him and Ocon, I can see them missing out on some points compared to their performance last year. Not to mention they have a car so unreliable that it may as well be called Harry Maguire. In 4th place will be McLaren after missing out and finishing in 5th last year. And the reason for that improvement is down to drivers. Lando is really emerging as one of the best in the sport, and like McLaren, I have faith that Piastri will do reasonably well in an F1 car, not to mention the massive middle finger he'll want to show to Alpine. Into the big guns now, and in 3rd place I have Ferrari, who you could argue had possibly the most disappointing season last year. While I think it'll be close between the top teams, what will hurt the Scuderia is their slower car at the end of last year, and a lack of strategy, and their drivers not being able to finish races, and a new team principal who has a track record of nearly always finishing 9th or 10th. Look, I think you get the picture here. Fast car or fast drivers, they're still Ferrari. Then in 2nd place I have Mercedes, the Silver Arrows, or as it more accurately turns out, the Carbon Fibre Arrows. While 2022 was their most disappointing season, well maybe ever, they did improve towards the end of the year, including a win for Russell in Brazil. But given how they dropped the ball so hard last year it made New Year celebrations in New York look boring, I think they'll still be lacking just that little bit in 2023. And then finally, of course, that leaves in 1st place Red Bull to take back-to-back Constructors titles for the first time since 2011. Now, while they may have the same dodgy accountant as Manchester City, that doesn't stop them having a good car, and despite their sanctions for 2023, I don't think that'll do enough to cost them their lead at the top, at least not this year anyway. So with the teams now completely wrongly predicted, it's time to mess up the drivers as well. In last, we have Zhou Guanyu, or as some random American announcer would say,
Zhou Guanyu.
And while yes, he did have some good moments last year, when you combine what I have as the worst team, along with being the clear second driver, you get P20. Next up in P19, we have the sport's resident American Logan Sargent, who, funnily enough, is the only rookie out of the 3 this year to graduate straight from F2. But like Joe, I'm feeling like it could be a case of a bad car and the lesser of 2 drivers that leaves Logan in 19th.
Still, could be worse.
Then in P18, we have the technically not a Red Bull driver, but 100% still most definitely a Red Bull driver, Alex Albon. I think he'll continue to show that he's a good driver, but ultimately will be fairly limited by what I'm anticipating to be a pretty set backmarker car. Then in P17, with what I predict to be the last of the backmarkers, is Valtteri Bottas. As unfortunately for the Finn, despite entering the season with a banging mullet and supreme confidence like Albon, well, he drives for a pretty underwhelming team. Next up in P16, we have F1's resident child driver, Yuki Tsunoda. While he's shown some bright spots the past couple of seasons, on the whole he's generally performed pretty badly, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's someone on the hot seat come the end of the year, especially given the person in 15th. And in 15th, it's Tsunoda's teammate and a Dutch world champion before Max Verstappen, Nick de Vries. While he's a rookie, he may well be the most accomplished rookie ever, having already won Formula 2 along with winning Formula E, aka Formula Washing Machine. And both those titles, plus a good debut last year, have him beating Tsunoda in his first season for me. In P14, the man that has no fear besides stepping on an F1 podium, and sadly for Nico Hülkenberg, I don't see him conquering that fear this year. After all, he's been out of a full-time race seat for 3 seasons, along with now being 35 years old, so it's P14 for Hulk. Next up in unlucky number 13 is Canadian cash on wheels Lance Stroll, who after Nicholas Latifi was axed last year, is now officially classed as an endangered species. When it comes to his on-track performances, I'd say they were most accurately summarised as follows.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
And with a certain set of 40-year-old eyebrows for a teammate, I think it'll really show in 2023. In P12, the man that won't hesitate to fox smash your door, Kevin Magnussen. The drive ride class is the better half of Team Suck My Balls Mate. With experience and pace along with chemistry with the team, I reckon 2023 will be a generally good season for the Dane. In P11, the last of the rookies and creator of the best Twitter mayhem I have ever seen, Oscar Piastri. The man who snubbed Alpine last year to sign with McLaren sure has a lot of pressure on him to start his career. And while I think he'll do okay, having success in junior categories doesn't always translate to instant success in Formula 1. I mean, just ask Mick Schumacher how his career is going. First driver in the top 10, and it's the sport's resident dinosaur, Fernando Alonso. Someone who last year may well have finished best of the rest had his car not been breaking down every other race. Sadly for Fernando, I don't see the Aston catching up to the top 5, so for me this is really as high as I can see him finishing. In P9, and the first of 2 Frenchmen on the list, Pierre Gasly, and for me I don't really know what to make of him this year. I won't lie, last year was a little underwhelming, and given he has his old enemy Esteban Ocon for company in 2023, I'm not really expecting an incredible year. Sorry to say it, Gasly fans, but just not overly feeling it for him. In 8th place, we have the previously mentioned part 2 of Alpine's potentially explosive driver lineup, Esteban Ocon. While the pair of them have said the expected "we need to work as a team" PR statements, somehow I just feel like that isn't going to happen, and ultimately for 2023 I reckon it will end up costing them both points, hence it's no higher than 8 for the Alpine drivers. In P7 and securing the best of the rest slot for the second year running is Lando Norris, in what now is his 5th season in F1. Lando has really put himself into the top tier of drivers in recent years, and ultimately the only thing that holds him back is the car, and maybe occasionally the ability to use the right tyres for the conditions. Next up in P6 is Carlos Sainz, someone who spent about as much time in the gravel last year as he did looking at the back of his teammate's car. It's only a joke, but over the course of last year he definitely seemed to slot more into that number 2 role for Ferrari. Admittedly was unlucky a couple of times, including Kota, where George Russell elected to play bumper cars with him, but as I do see him as a fairly clear second driver at Ferrari, and I'm not predicting an overly amazing year for them, it's P6 for Sainz. Up next is Max Verstappen's whipping boy, sacrificial lamb, Red Bull's second driver, Sergio Perez. While Checo has shown to be a good driver the past few years, ultimately he's always going to be second best to his teammate, and if things are a little tighter this year like many of us hope, I could see him slipping back just a little bit. In at P4 we have the current reigning Formula 1 world champion if you take the first 3 races of last season, before it all just unravelled into the spiralling mess of chaos and mistakes that is Scuderia Ferrari. For Leclerc, I think he'll beat his teammate and do well, but I'm anticipating a slightly slower car for him to drive, hence only P4. That plus his tendency to just go sticking the car into the wall whenever he feels like it. Into the top 3, and it's the man with 2 first names, George Russell. Not gonna lie, looking back at this footage, I'm surprised he kept his top on during the car launch. For the on-track racing though, he performed well last year when he wasn't crashing into people, but with what I think will be a stronger car, a second year in a top team, he should do well and build on the singular win he took last season. In second place, I have Lewis Hamilton, somewhat bouncing back after what goes down as one of his poorer seasons. While teammate Russell did beat him on points last year and took a win while Hamilton didn't, on the whole I did think that Lewis had the higher maximum race pace. He may have had the lower lows, like being knocked out of Q1 by Lance Stroll and using Fernando Alonso as a launch pad, but the actual race pace was pretty good, and so I've got him ahead in the battle of the Mercedes drivers. And that leaves in first place for the 3rd year running Max Verstappen, taking home another Drivers' World Championship. Ultimately, while I don't think Red Bull will be quite as dominant, I don't think that'll stop Max. Sorry to say it, Charles and Lewis fans, but he was in a league of his own last year, and I think that'll still be enough to keep him and Red Bull on top in 2023. So there you have my 2023 F1 predictions. As I said before, if you did enjoy the video, do give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content this year. Let me know how wrong I am in the comments below, and until next time, take care.